We are Chris and Bex, the Nomadic Crobot, and welcome to the Whistling Wombat, our project narrowboat. It was never meant to be a project, but it is because we got screwed. Anyway, enough of the sob story. So we've spent the last 3 months completely reinstating the stove area. It has come with so many problems. You'll have to check the last episodes if you're not up to date, but it really has been such a nightmare. Luckily, Becca is equipped with a marvellous brain, and she used that marvellous brain to come up with all these clever drawings of what our fireplace could look like potentially if we were prepared to put the time and effort into it. We really wanted this to be the centre focus point of the living room. So we're nearly finished now, onto the last little bit. In the last episode we'd got all the tiles up, we're preparing to put the stove back into position, but first we've got to sort out this blimmin' hole in the ceiling. But thank God this thing is going to be finished by the end of the episode and we can show it off to you guys in all its glory. So when taking on the job of doing the complete refit of the narrowboat stove, it was always very important for both me and Bex to try and do this as safely and correctly as possible. And though there are guidelines online that point you into the right direction, they're not necessarily official legal requirements. So now what you've got to do is sort out this mess. I mean, what's it like on your boats, guys? Because I said to Bex, the chimney ends here, yeah? So there's this much of a gap before we actually get into the boat. Normally the metal bit sticks out a little bit. This has obviously got to be brought right back because no wood is allowed near the area, really. I think it's 12 inches.
That's 12 inches. 12.
So let us know in the comments down below what your boat's like, because we're sort of a little bit confused at what's going on with our chimney.
That can't be right. That must be a new regulation.
Yeah, we found ourselves skimming through YouTube trying to do something that we don't often do. We don't get the chance to watch many other narrowboat channels just because we're so busy, but there were about 5 that popped up. The boat that James built, great little channel. But he really went to town with the health and safety regulations and really done it properly, I think, with 12 inches all around chimney. Is that right, is it, James? He moved the wooden beam in the middle and he moved it away.
James, explain. We don't understand. It's all very confusing. But this is not coming down now. This is our.
It is staying.
This is my regulation. I've decided.
Yeah, I mean we've got wooden beams here. If it's illegal, it's illegal. All right. It's staying up.
It's got to get through 25 mil of heat-proof board before it even gets close to that. So I don't know.
I think with narrowboats, everyone's sort of twisting and bending the rules a little bit, aren't they?
Yeah, it's never clear, like anywhere on anything, basically, with a narrowboat, exactly how you're meant to do it. Which is why you always sort of get these types of conversations going.
You try your best to make it as safe as possible. Well, not everyone does, but we have, haven't we? Yeah. We're trying to do everything by the book, and then you come across something like this. I mean, that is literally touching the single flue chimney. I don't know how the boat has even passed its BSS in the past like that. This has got to be up to here, like a square, I think. Or am I just being stupid? Probably a bit of both. Next up, guys, extraction of the hole. That'd make a good name for the episode, wouldn't it? Got to increase the size of this hole now in order to make it safe. First up, Rebecca Crobot will give me a lesson in how to use the multi-tool. And how to cut into our poor narrowboat ceiling correctly. Next up, yours truly will take charge. These things are easy to use. I can even do it with my eyes shut. Sorry, must concentrate. First bit done. And that's how it's done. First time ever using a multi-tool. Not first time ever, is it? Right, Bex, you're up. So we're not actually, as it turns out, going to cut off too much more. We're just going to cut off the bits that have been touching the flue and just bring it back a couple of inches, because it's just going to cause another huge job, isn't it, if we start taking the roof down. But we do need to make sure that this is safe. And Bex has got a little plan.
So the next stage of the process, which I'm very excited about because it means that we're edging ever so closer to actually having the stove in place, is working out the section on the ceiling where the flue goes through and sorting that out because it was a right old charred mess. So as you can see, I've cut some pieces of hardy backer and taken out the centre here so that the flue will just sit through nicely. And then I will pack out all of this area with fire rope to ensure that no heat is transmitted to the surrounding wood here. This has all been cut away now, so there shouldn't be any problem with the heat transfer. So what I'm doing is positioning this at the minute, screwing it in so it's in place to receive the collar when we finally move the fire into place and we position that.
So next up we've got to try and get the fireplace back into its original position. Remember, the chimney can't be removed off our stove because it's welded itself on. So we've got to somehow try to squeeze it on and onto the new half without smashing all the tiles that we've only literally just put up like 12 hours ago. So let's see if we can do this without arguing, without getting at each other. Who will crack first in the panic? I mean, you guys must know what it's like if you're narrowboating. Me and Bex get on really, really well, but we do bicker. And when things start going a little bit wrong, we also start shouting sometimes. You remember the stick? Push it! Where do you want me to go? I can't hear you. Come here. Can't go back. Might need to use the old stick. I'll have to use the old stick. Can't hear you. It's all well and good. I've got an engine down here. Can't hear you. Okay, I wonder if to use the old stick in the middle. Push it. Push off. No, the big one. I'm not too sure. I don't think she can hear me, and I can't hear her. It's a tight old Bex. Why don't you use the stick? She never listens. Oh, she heard that. She heard that. Use the stick in the middle. Push off over there. In this incident, neither of us shouted.
It wasn't a screaming match after all. So now that the stove is back in position, it's centralised now through the pipe that goes through the roof. So in the spirit of Christmas, it's time to get stuffing. For anyone that needs a bit more clarification, what that means is ramming this rope in between the gap between the two pipes. In order to properly seal the flue, this needs to be done from the top side on the outside of the boat, and also then again from inside of the boat from underneath. So I'm going to start outside before it gets too dark. Here we have it from the top side. You can see what I need to do is just stuff some rope down here in between the gap, and that'll stop this whole thing from wiggling around. I don't know if you can see that, but I've put a bit of tape on the underside just to give me a guide as to where to stop and stop stuffing. So let's see how this goes. Another first. I've got a load of fire rope and a load of different stuffing instruments depending on what I might need and what works best. Apologies for the difficult camera work up here, but it is exactly that, difficult. Let the stuffing commence. Actually, the old finger's working out pretty well for the moment. Okay, I'm just going to run inside and look how it's looking from the inside. I just want to know if my first layer of rope is about at the right-ish level, because obviously once you start stuffing it in, you can't tell how deep you've gone in. Sounds a bit dodgy. Anyway, yeah, let's go and have a look. Oh yeah, so you can see I'm bulging at the minute, which is not quite what I want, so I'll just kind of reposition that from the inside and then I can carry on from the outside. So I've stuffed that back into the right place, and now I should be able to carry on from the top with relative ease. She says. A little hard to make it out, but you might just see that just in there. That's all you're getting, I'm afraid, folks. It's really hard to show it. So the light has got me, but haha! Not before I got it first, because I am done with this part of the job. Yes! You can probably just about make it out. My fire rope all nicely stuffed. And then what I might do is just add a little bit of sealant just over the top to kind of further protect it. So for the second part of the stuffing extravaganza, so I just want to continue the fire rope on from here just down a little way to kind of the level of the ceiling, and that will just make sure to absorb any excess heat that's emanating from the flue, basically prevent any wood charring from happening in the future, which actually I think won't happen now that the wood's been cut back a lot further, because it basically was touching the flue before, so it doesn't take a genius to figure out what's going to happen there. The other thing I want to do is just put a bit of heat protective sort of gasket, if that's actually the right way to term it, on the copper collar that's going to go up on the ceiling just for the parts that are going to be touching the wood. I'm just going to attach some of this heat-proof rope just around the edges of the copper where it connects to the wood. I think I might be being a bit overly safety conscious, but hey, surely that's not going to do any harm. There we go, so that's all done, ready for action. So this is where it all gets a bit tense, because I don't imagine the bit of fire rope that I'm about to wrap round the flue and secure with some glue will stay in position very well until that has dried. So what I'm going to have to do is get it all on there, glue it on there, and then quickly screw the collar into place, which should hold it whilst the glue dries. That's the theory. Let's see how it ends up going in practice. So the glue is on there, I don't know if you can see that, and I'm going to now start the wrapping process, which I feel might be problematic, but we'll give it a go and see how it goes. So here we go, the rope's all nicely wrapped around. So I had secured the hardy backer in place using these temporary bolts whilst I waited for my nice brass ones to arrive, because steel and copper don't react very well together, so really the bolts needed to be brass to prevent it from corroding. So my thinking was that by bolting these in temporarily like this, it'll help keep the hardy backer in place as I locate my proper bolts, because otherwise it's just kind of like doing it invisibly, which is pretty difficult. So the last thing to do is put the collar on. Right, here comes the fiddly bit. Right, ladies and gentlemen, so it has taken a lot of faffing and chopping and changing and trying different things, but it is finally on. It's on nice and sturdy, so I'm pretty happy with that. So as you all know, we've been busting our little butts trying to get the stove sorted, and I always had this kind of dream that come this Christmas we'd have the lounge, a lovely sort of space, all decorated, all nice and ready to go. We'd been talking about getting a sofa, however because of the delays with the stove that's all totally gone to pot. But as a little surprise to Chris, I've thrown something together which is a bit makeshift. I've taken the cushions out of my van to make us like a makeshift sofa, and I've just tried to make the lounge as nice and cosy as it can be, ready for some serious Christmas decorating later. He's about to arrive now, so I'm just going to film his reaction.
Oh wow! Oh.
So,
I love this. That's nice. Oh wow, oh, you've done so well. I think now we've got to celebrate, haven't we? By getting incredibly drunk. So 3 months ago, this is what our stove looked like. Bex hatched a clever little plan to try and recreate something that looked a bit like this. And how do you think she's done, guys? We've got the black and white quarry tiles on the bottom, the slate tiles to the left and right, then that disgusting copper that started this whole thing off, and then some awesome little port-style-y inner collar just to finish it off up here. And hopefully this is all now to the legal requirements. Either that or we'll have to pull it all off again. And then, yeah, we'll see you in another 3 months. This copper has come up amazing. Who would have thought it would have come up this nicely? Bex, that's who. And even though I helped out sort of putting a few tiles on this thing, we all know who the mastermind is behind this thing. Bex has done it once again, guys, hasn't she? It looks absolutely awesome. I'm so chuffed with this. Go Bex, what an inspiration. We knew taking on the task of this would cost us a bit of time. A couple of months of being completely frozen on this narrowboat, but it has been absolutely worth it. Next steps, let's get some hot water on this thing, and then it's about time we go cruising. What do you reckon, guys? Thanks for all your love and support, and this is our year, guys, I'm telling you. The cruising and off-grid living is happening. It needs to.